Project Hail Mary. This is a spoiler review. I have a review up on my blog, soundofbettermyhead.com. Pretty sure that's spoiler free. It's a tricky movie to avoid spoilers on for something I'm about to get into here in a second. Before I do that, I gave this movie a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it. It was a really solid watch. I was really invested in it. I thought it just went along a little too long, and I felt like it was kind of predictable. I mean, there was a couple small twists, but nothing like that really affected the overall plot. It's just kind of like you knew certain things were going to kind of happen more or less, and I wasn't like, oh my, I'm surprised by this. Like I said, there was a little tiny surprise, but not the general plot. Like the way it ended wasn't too different than I would have thought it was going to end from the beginning of it. Also, it's a lot of scenes where there's danger and something bad could happen to like your main characters, but it just felt like the kind of movie where they were not going to die. It's like, you know what, the way this movie's structured, these characters got to live at least to the end. Nothing's going to happen before the end. Maybe the character will have to die at the end, but before then they're safe. There's just that kind of vibes in the movie. But going back to the spoilers, I think I've only seen one trailer for this movie, maybe two. I wasn't going on my way to watch the trailers. And it's blatant, right? As soon as you watch the trailer, like, here's this school teacher. He's recruited by the government to save the world, and he goes out in outer space, and he meets an alien. It's right out there. You already know that. And then right before the movie, I see that the description of the movie says that a man wakes up on a spaceship and doesn't know how he got there. So basically, the movie's supposed to be a mystery. When you're watching it, like, this guy's on a spaceship. He's like, how'd I get here? And you're supposed to be, yeah, I don't know. How'd you get there? And you're supposed to discover this with him. But the marketing's like, yeah, fuck it. Here's how it happened. So it's kind of weird. I don't know how different the movie would be if I experienced it the way it was intended. Like, I don't know. I don't know how it would be. It's, beyond that. I'm actually kind of glad that I read that it was supposed to be a mystery ahead of time, because then I would have been like, wait a minute, this is supposed to be a mystery? Like, this is not a mystery. So that's where spoilers gets tricky. I don't know. If you didn't see any trailers, how he got there is a mystery, and that would be a spoiler of how he got there. If you saw that, then he goes there and he meets his alien. So that's where I got a little weird trying to do a non-spoiler review. Again, the plot's about what you see in the trailer and about what you expect. The son is dying. This teacher is reluctantly sent out to go in the spaceship and help save it. And he meets an alien who's also trying to save his star, and they got to work together, even though he's like a little rock guy that doesn't, speak English initially. And, just a lot of it's just them trying to learn to communicate with each other. That takes a big chunk of time. Then they finally work together to try to figure out how to do it. There's a couple of missions tied to that. And then you got your ending. So as I said, and then it kind of goes back and forth between the flashbacks. It feels like two different movies, because you got this start off the movie, this guy's disheveled, he doesn't know what's going on, and then it cuts to like him, in the flashback, there's a school teacher, and then it cuts back to the movie. And I think those work in the beginning, but every time it's like, it feels like two different movies. And he's not as interesting when he's in space by himself and he doesn't know what's going on. He's just trying to guess. Where the stuff on Earth is like, okay, we're telling the actual story here. I think when it switches over and he meets the alien, when he meets Rocky, then that story becomes completely interesting, and it's not as interesting when they drop back to the stuff going on Earth. I mean, some of it is, but some of it feels like, okay, let's get back to like the better stuff. Yeah, I guess that's about it for the plot. I mean, it's fairly straightforward based on the trailers. Like, the only thing with the ending is this: anybody have to sacrifice themselves, and ultimately, it's just, again, this is spoilers. It's just Dr. Grace saying, you know what, I'll give up my chance to get back to Earth to help Rocky, and maybe stay on his planet indefinitely. So, kind of a cutesy, happy ending. There's a kind of cutesy vibe to the whole movie. Like, even when there's danger, like I said, you just kind of feel like, okay, these guys are gonna pull out. It's too cutesy, but it's not portrayed too cute. When you see the movie, you might get what I'm talking about. Again, as I talked about him, Ryan Gosling, it's his movie to carry, because it's basically him acting by himself for most of the movie, or acting with his puppet. And I think he does a really good job. I think he brings the emotional moments when he needs to. He's got the acting chops and he's got the comedy chops to pull off the comedy parts. I think there's a little bit too much comedy. I think there's a little bit too much of him just being quirky for fun. Like the way he wears his glasses when he's not wearing them, like hanging off of one ear. He's always tripping over something. I mean, once in a while that's a good comedic beat, but it's like kind of a lot. He's tripping over something. It's like, hey, it's a smart guy, but he doesn't know how to wear glasses and he falls over stuff. It just gets a little silly. Maybe me a little harsh on. Maybe people thought that was the best part of the movie. They brought a little bit something to it. I thought it was a little much at times. Not a complaint really, so much as more of a nitpick. The only other actress that gets any other major time, I don't know if I'm going to say her name right. I believe it's Sandra Hüller. She's a German actress. She's fine in the role. She's got to be a hard ass. She's trying to save the Earth, and if she doesn't, everyone's dead basically, or half the population's going to die. So she's got to make tough choices. I think she does that really well, and also having this there's still a little bit like a soft side to her deep down. And I think the scene where he brings it out and she sings karaoke, that was actually surprisingly emotional scene for the movie. Probably in my opinion, one of the most emotional scenes in the movie. But she's solid. Everyone else is just kind of there. Like you could have thrown any character in there to play the other scientists and people work in the lab because they don't get a lot of screen time and they're not really that important, especially in the second half where it's just him. The voice actor for Rocky is fine. Again, there's a little bit having to kind of disassociate with reality because it's with the sci-fi. It's like, okay, he meets this alien who communicates with weird sounds, and he somehow makes a computer program that could initially not only translate everything by doing one word at a time, then it gets to the point where it's also real-time translating and giving them a voice, which is supposed to be coming from the laptop he's carrying with him. But then those parts where he doesn't have the laptop anywhere nearby, but they're still translating Rocky. I mean, he even goes to Rocky's home planet at the end. He's like, no laptop inside, nothing, unless the dome that he's in. It's a nitpick. You just got to roll with it. You can't sit there and point out to me, that doesn't make sense scientifically. Speaking of scientifically, though, one thing I wish they would get into, there's a pretty big amount of time that's passing in this movie. Like, it's not a round the corner trip to the star they're going to. I don't think they specifically say in the movie. I think I read somewhere it took 13 years to get there and then do what he's got to do, and then it probably would have taken 13 years to get back, even for the probes. So they don't do much to show you about the passage of time, especially on Earth. Like, you see at the end, it does look like she has aged. Like, she used to have red hair, now it's gray hair. And you said, you can tell it looks like time has definitely passed on Earth. I wish we would have knew a specific hard number. Like, it's 30 years, we finally got this stuff. And also, he looks the same age in the entire movie. And he wasn't in, suspended animation as far as I know, like they do in, the Aliens movies. As far as I know, they were just in some kind of induced coma for, years. Unless it really slows the metabolism to where you don't even age. Or you start getting into relativity, because I believe the ship was supposed to be traveling near light speed. And the faster you go, the slower time goes for you when you're on a vehicle like that. But they don't get into any of that kind of shit. That's something Interstellar would have got into. Like, you really would have felt how much time passed. I mean, that was a big part of Interstellar, how much time passed for this man while he was doing this mission, and how it affected, his family back home. Where here, it's kind of like, yeah, it's happening, but don't worry about it. Rocky was fine as a character, going back to, because there's not a lot of characters. Again, it's just a puppet with someone voicing it. I'm sure that they're going to say, it's a total puppet. We did this, no CGI, but I'm sure there was CGI, even though it was just getting rid of sticks or strings or something. It had to have been something going on. And those parts were the way he was moving and walking on the ceiling practically, is like, there's probably some kind of CGI involved in here. I don't know why everyone's afraid to say they use CG in a movie these days. But he looked good. I said, he a little too cutesy at times. He'd do a little, almost like a purring, kind of scared noise sometimes. Other than that, he was a fine character. I thought the special effects overall looked good. All the space stuff looked good. There's some really beautiful shots of the one planet that they visit. I mean, it's kind of hard to screw it up. They probably had a practical model for the spaceships, but you never know. And I don't think there's a ton else I want to mention about the film. again, it was long. It's like 2.5 hours, I believe. It felt long at times, but it kind of felt like you sort of need. Again, I said about that Passions of Time. I think the length of the film kind of helps a little bit, especially when there's a really long segment where Rocky's hurt, and you know he's gonna be all right because it's. I said it's not that kind of movie where he's gonna die, but it goes on for like a while. But I think that helps, like how much time it felt like passed, like making you feel like, okay, man, he's worried about him for like days or whatever amount of time he was out of it. Again, they don't say anything and say, oh, you've been out of it for like 2 weeks. It's just like, oh yeah, they just kind of go on with the missions. And as I'm saying, some of the flashback stuff becomes less relevant once you get back to the future. But while you're watching it at the time, it really helps flesh out Dr. Grace's character and some of the other stuff going on. But looking back at it, you don't really care that much at like, you know, him and Carl's that little grocery trip where they're like bowling with duct tape. But at the time, I was like, okay, this is livening things up. But I think that's it. Like I said, it was a solid movie. Like, I got my complaints, obviously, but I was invested in it. I was invested in the story. When it started getting kind of late, I'm like, all right, this is kind of going on a while. What do they got to do to wrap this up? Let's finish this. But other than that, I was invested in what was going on the screen. And like I said, Ryan Gosling does a great job at carrying this movie by himself. And like I said, everyone else just does their part to support him. So other than that, like I said, I have the theoretically spoiler-free review of this up. I have other movie reviews, TV show reviews. I got a comic strip that I do. I put all those on soundbettermyhead.com, so if you want to check that out, that'd be awesome. And other than that, thanks for watching.